What's going on, Clippers fans? Welcome back to Clips and Dip. We are on season 2, episode 74. The Clippers season has been over for some time now. It's been a difficult, trying time for all of us here at Clips and Dip. Thank you for sticking around. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by William Updike and Adam Oslin. We have a great show today. We opened it up for some Clippers offseason questions. There's a lot of pressing questions surrounding Lawrence Frank and some contract stuff. We also, for the first time in show history, have dips. We have dips on the show and some chips. We're going to be talking about it maybe at the end of the episode, maybe throughout, depending how things go. We don't know what dip anyone else is eating. Before we get into everything, so disclaimer, you might hear some chip noises. We are only human. Adam, Will, how have you been kind of decompressing? I'm fully decompressed for this clip. How's your off season, Adam?
Just fully depressed. No, I'm okay. It's been a little bit rough watching some of these playoff games. Some of it you watch Minnesota and Denver, and you're almost at ease thinking how the Clippers could beat either of these teams. But then you see Dallas and Luka's still struggling and not shooting it that well. And they're tied up at 2-2, heading back to game 5 against the OKC Thunder tonight. And the Thunder are beatable as well. So it kind of feels like the path was there for the Clippers, but they weren't healthy once again. It would have been nice, though, because that's exactly what I was looking at during the season to see if Denver would lock up with Minnesota in the second round, because I thought that would go 6 or 7, and it is. So it's a little bit, it's a downer. It stinks. The Clippers are out, and it's been weird without them for some time. But I guess there's plenty of offseason stuff to discuss anyways here.
Yes, there is. Will, how's your off season?
It's going pretty good, man. I traveled last weekend, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to sit in the loss. But life goes on, dude. Life goes on.
The ultimate.
And if you're the Clippers, apparently it's just wash and repeat. It's like Groundhog's Day. Every season is the same. Every day is the same. I'm just living, man. Smooth brain, full heart, can't lose.
Full dip too.
Yeah. Oh, bro, we're gonna be getting into some full dip. The ultimate my team just lost in the playoffs vibe is, hey, it's just basketball. We're all doing good. That's when those vibes come out, and it's fair. Will, indulging in some chips and dip. If you're watching us, you can see us eat some of these chips. If you're just listening to us, thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Let's get into some of these questions. If anyone has thoughts on their dip that they just can't hold back until the second segment, feel free to let it go.
It's so flavorful, guys.
I don't know.
I can't hold back.
We don't know what you have. I will say we're only like 3 minutes in, but I love what the dip is doing to the dynamic of this show. It can also
Who's going to be the first to forget to mute their mic and just be chewing?
You get put in timeout if it happens.
Because you're getting called out.
Oh, 100%. Also, dip for future reference could mean chewing tobacco. It could mean something you put on a chip. It's all fluid here at Clips and Dip.
Fun dip.
Yeah, hey, could be fun dip. Okay, so we got some Clippers questions. We got some roster stuff. David Hellman wants to know over under on how many seasons Lawrence Frank has left with this organization. I think this might be his toughest offseason yet, considering what we're dealing with Paul George's contract and the roster itself and the second apron. Will, what would we put the line at? 2.5?
Yeah, 1.5? I would probably put the line at 2. I would be a little bit surprised. I think the thing that it really comes down to is like, what's the understanding from ownership about the dynamic between the front office, the coaching staff, and the players? Because it's been pretty clear now for a while that those entities are not on the same page. And while I think that it's fair to criticize some of Lawrence Frank's moves or some of the lack of moves at times, I mean, they weren't very aggressive in like the buyout market or anything this season. What does he do if his 2-star players say, you got to go out and get this guy? I mean, I guess that's, what you would want from your GM. But the other issue was even when we were trying to build this team around what we thought the strengths of it were, that wasn't necessarily lining up with what the coaching staff or just specifically Ty Lue thought the rotation should be. So we had guys sitting on the bench, and so it's it's difficult to say. And I mean, it's certainly a situation where, if you're doing your exit interviews or your performance reviews, everybody could point the finger at one other person. And at the end of the day, like, you as the ownership group just have to choose like what guy you're gonna stick with.
That's a fair call. Adam, you think it's like 3 more seasons? That is a long tenure also as a GM for one team. From what he's been to 3 more seasons, that's like a fair tenure. It's not for lack of trying.
I'd prefer not playing the over-under on someone's job, but that's just me.
That's the question.
Yeah, it's not a great one. He could have said it and then said, which side are we going off of? But I like Lawrence Frank. I do. I think overall he's done a good job. Something Will has brought up is this disconnect going on at times between the front office and the coaching staff. It has felt like over the past couple of seasons where, in 2021, we got to the Western Conference Finals, and we did so by using Wingstop, by using a bunch of wings against the Dallas Mavericks, against the Utah Jazz. And so they loaded up in that area. But then Coach Lue seemed to have a preference for guards. He said straight up he has an affinity for guards. He was one. So it just is strange that they aren't quite on the same page at times. Isaiah Hartenstein, we got to watch him get double-digit offensive rebounds last night for the New York Knicks. He'll be an unrestricted free agent. He'll get paid a ton of money this offseason. But that was someone who, I don't know if he was as valued by the coaching staff or by the front office or neither.
That I don't believe that was a front office decision. Like I don't believe the front office. Like if it was, I don't think that Larry walked in the room and said, "We got to dump this hard guy for John Wall."
Yeah, it seems like the Stars and Coach Lue were still looking for that point guard to make things easier on 2-1-3. They got it this season with James Harden, but John Wall obviously wasn't the answer at that point of his career, and they missed out on Isaiah Hartenstein because of that, which at the time he got more money going to New York, but did come out later on a podcast and say he would have taken less to stay with the Clippers. So
which sometimes
who knows if something was lost there in communication.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm like, would you have really have taken less? Did you tell them that? I feel like if it's not
easy to say after the fact.
I think it makes more sense if you've already signed the deal. Like if you're still in free agency and trying to get the best offer, it makes sense to put out there like, hey, I'll take a lower offer to go to a contender, and then you drive up your market price. If the ink is already dry on the dotted line, I mean, like then I guess I have a little bit more of a tendency to believe it.
Fair.
I just think the one failure with the front office and coaching staff is not working together in unison, at least appearance-wise, with some of the moves that have been made and whether or not Coach Lue has even used these guys. When they brought back Rocco, he has that great 20-game stretch when he came over from the Portland Trailblazers, was shooting 70% on corner threes, and then is completely out of the rotation the next year. Also, he'll be a free agent with Nicholas Batum this upcoming offseason.
Like Groundhog Day, like Will said, let's run it all back.
I just would love to see, I don't know, a little bit more uniformity or just somewhat more of a connection between the front office and the coaching staff. And look, I don't have intel or insight on this. I'm just going off of guys they have brought in that either haven't been used or guys that they have let go. I'm just reading tea leaves on how this has gone over the past couple of seasons. But I think overall, Lawrence Frank has done a really good job. Obviously, he was executive of the year in 2020 after making the move to bring in 2-1-3. Every GM in the history of basketball would have made that trade. Every GM in the history of basketball would have made that move. The exact same one that the Clippers did. So you can look back on it now, and obviously it's sour because SGA is in the second round and thriving and pulling them through in that Game 4 victory the other night, and the Clippers are out, and they may lose Paul George. And obviously Kawhi Leonard hasn't been able to stay healthy at the most important time of the season. But again, it was a no-brainer at the time. And I honestly believe every GM in the history of basketball would have done the exact same thing. SGA and his ceiling, then we thought maybe he's a fringe all-star type player. Nobody saw this coming, where he finished runner-up in MVP by the time he's 26 years of age. And I go back and I look at some of the other GMs around the league, like Bob Myers has been the hot name out there because obviously he's a broadcaster now and did so much work with the Golden State Warriors and that dynasty. And it would be great if he joined the front office. I'm not saying I wouldn't like that, but if you go through with a fine-tooth comb everybody else's decision in the draft and some of their free agency decisions, it's typically not pretty. They're hitting about 30% of the time. They're hitting 300, which is great. That's like a hitter at the plate. You hit 300 for 10 years, you're likely going to be a Hall of Famer in Major League Baseball. That's how difficult it is to find guys, to find the right guys. If you go, Bob Myers didn't find Steph Curry. He did bring in Draymond and Klay Thompson, but it's been very spotty. Obviously, the James Wiseman and that move didn't work out. So I just think there's a lot of blame that is going on Lawrence Frank, and a lot of it is unnecessary or at least overblown in my mind.
And I think it's also like the ownership, obviously, when you bring in guys like Kawhi and PG, they're given certain protections in terms of media things and stuff like that. So I think a lot of that falls on Lawrence Frank too. It's not like you can look at our stars and, well, all of our main star and like critique how they're acting. Like Lawrence Frank has to answer a lot of that directly for how those stars perform, which I think makes him kind of a higher profile GM, if that makes sense.
Well, and the biggest reason for the Clippers' failures has simply been Kawhi Leonard's right knee not being able to hold up, something nobody could have predicted. So, it starts there. That is the number one reason they haven't been successful. It's not so much moves on the margins and all these different things. It's just Kawhi cannot be healthy for a playoff run.
We have Anthony Lutti wants to know, if they intend on running it back, why are the Clippers seemingly waiting on PG before seeking to finalize Harden? Why not the other way around? PG is going to test the market anyways. And Harden says he wants to be here, albeit with a nice bag. There are some caveats here. Harden has said he's wanted to retire at like every last team he's played for. So I do take that with kind of a grain of salt. But why is this a functionality thing? Can they not do Harden before they do PG? I genuinely do not know if it's more advantageous to lock the guy up who you can overpay.
I don't think free agency starts until June 30th. Like, I don't think they could sign him to a new deal right now. It's right after the draft, right?
Yes, when our new season starts right after the draft. So yeah, it just seems like a simple, they just legally can't.
Yeah.
Like, functionally cannot do that.
It's not that they're holding back or waiting to sign one guy to make something work within the cap and finagle things the right way. It's just, it's not the offseason yet. We're not there yet.
Yeah. Carrie Tamada wants to know, is adding a true power forward to the 2-1-3 Harden core the only option to make this group work? Play with size instead of small ball and shift man back to the bench with Norm, Bones, Kobe, whoever else makes the rotation? Or is this team just cooked right before launching a new arena? Will, your thoughts?
I'm leaning towards the latter.
Oh, no.
I mean, there's just still too many things up in the air. With where the Clippers are going to be at cap-wise, there's not a lot that you can do that's going to be like a huge upgrade from Terrence Mann. It could be size-wise or something, but I don't think you're getting like that much of an improvement. And I'm not saying that Terrence is an all-star or anything like that, but like you look at the assets that we have to spend, what we can possibly trade if we're over the apron, like it just, there's not really a lot out there. And then, so if you assume that not all of the big three come back, then maybe you can make some moves to get an upgrade somewhere on the roster, or if you can get a sign and trade. I think that that's your best path in terms of being able to do something different while still having a high level of talent. I don't know that you're still getting a player of Paul George's caliber. You might get somebody with lower ceiling, better floor. So I don't know. I don't think that there's no. There basically, long answer short, no. There is not the power forward out there that's going to magically fix the Clippers. And I like the idea, I guess, of moving Kawhi out of the 4. I don't know. 3s are more mobile, so should he be running around? I have no idea. Why not just park him at the 4, depending on the matchup? I don't know. Kawhi's the only guy that we're keeping. So
fix the team, Will. Fix the team with one.
I can't do it with a power forward. And also, like, the other thing to factor in too is like Terrence is available and young. So what power forward are you getting that hits all of those criteria? And what are you realistically giving up?
Yeah, to push man to the bench, that would be a lot.
I just don't understand the premise of the question. To make this group work, it's like, well, the group doesn't work because they can't stay healthy. It's not, there's some bad construction there. Maybe they could use
Lawrence
a power
Frank
forward and Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah,
they need to get younger. They need to get more athletic. I understand that, but it's still the reason they have failed is because Kawhi can't stay healthy in the playoffs. We've never even got to see this group fully healthy. And this is year 5 of 2-1-3. Outside the bubble, at least, with Coach Lue, we haven't been able to see it. I fully believe they need to get younger. They need to get more athletic. They need to insulate 2-1-3 and James Harden, if everybody's coming back, with younger players around them. Now, Zoo and Terrence Mann fit that criteria. They're guys just entering the start of their prime. And they're on really cheap deals right now where you're not going to be able to Will's point, get the same value in return if you do trade them, if you do move them. And Terrence Mann, to me, was a top 3 player for the Clippers in that first-round series against the Dallas Mavericks. I think he was that good. I think it was him, James Harden, and Ivica Zubac were the 3 best players. And Terrence really showed he has another level he can get to. We always talk about guys raising their level of play in the playoffs. Terrence Mann played much better defense in that first-round series than we had seen all year long. Agreed. He absolutely flipped an individual switch. And maybe it was the further he got away from that ankle injury that plagued him early on in the season, just the better he got. Obviously shot well over 40% in 2024 in the new year once the calendar turned over. That's just not the guy. I mean, it always depends on what you're getting back, but I don't see that as an advantageous move for the Clippers to lose Terrence Mann, who's 27 and entering his prime while making, I think, just $10 million this season, to bring in what exactly? It would seem like a lateral move at best, and even that feels like a long shot to improve your roster while losing Terrence Mann. I don't know. I would love to see him bring back in. I know he's older, but he's still good. Batum. If they could bring back in Batum on a contract minimum,
I think a 4 on the bench is kind of more interesting than the starting lineup needing to shift around. I do think some more wing depth is needed. I just don't think that we don't have the assets or cap space to get somebody that's like true contender starting level power forward. So I think it's on the second unit.
The only reason I would say maybe someone like Batum could still start, obviously he might only play 20 minutes per night, but he could still start, is because Kawhi did make that comment during the season, like, I'll do it till we get a real one. I'll play the 4 till we get a real one. Yeah. So I think that is on their checklist this offseason, to try to find a starting caliber forward. Whether or not that means he's one of their 5 best players or just works in the starting 5 because he pushes Kawhi back to playing the 3 and Paul George back to playing the 2, and then it's James Harden at the 1. I don't know how they view it, but there aren't a ton of options. There just aren't right now. Especially even if they had the cap space, there aren't a ton of options.
Right. Yeah, that it feels kind of stuck like that. Someone asked if they think it's possible that the Clippers would try and bring more pieces and draft picks by moving off Mann and Zoo. You're not getting pieces because no one making $6 to $10 million is as good as these guys, and you're not getting draft picks. And if we did get draft picks, that would make us so bad, and we wouldn't even have double the draft picks to be getting, right? Like, we can't bottom out. So it's It's a rock and a hard place, right?
Those are valued assets internally. The Clippers being able to get Ivica Zubac, being able to get Terrence Mann that late in the draft, that's a huge windfall for this organization. Those are the guys you want to hold on to and keep his culture and DNA with this team. And yeah, they're good players on cheap deals right now, by the way. And if you do re-sign them, they're obviously going to have their bird rights. So you could go over the cap to keep those guys.
Which they'll have to. No one has more leverage in contract talks right now than Zoo and Terrence Mann, two guys who are young and play and know the system because they were grown into the system, basically.
Yeah, and why would you want to let go of Terrence Mann right after he becomes a starter, right after having his best playoff series? He finally has gotten rewarded for all his time of the odd job type of player he has been, filling in the cracks and crevices here and there, wherever the Clippers need him to play, whoever they need him to guard. I don't see them being able to bring in a guy that's that good. I think Clipper Nation, I know there's obviously a contingent of fans that don't like Ivica Zubac or don't value him very much, which is absurd to me. But Terrence Mann is pretty beloved. I would think universally everyone would want to keep him and hold on to him. I understand the logic of, well, these are guys who have value in our assets, so these are the ones that other teams might want. So if you need to make a move or upgrade a different position, those are the guys who are tradable. But the problem is, unless you're getting back other guys of equal value that are also on smaller deals like they are, which is pretty rare, I don't think it's an improvement for the Clippers.
It's not.
Yeah, you're looking at best a lateral move.
At best, yeah, with an aged Kawhi who now somehow has to do more because we have new guys who are getting used to the system. Clippers Australia, we got this kind of question a lot, basically. I'm going to combine two here. Would you prefer to watch this team flame out in the first round with another Kawhi knee injury? Very blunt from Clippers Australia.
Not that. Whatever the other answer is, not that.
Or a team of young players, maybe getting more minutes with the main focus being Bones, Kai, and Kobe Brown, but provide an exciting glimpse into the future while not making the playoffs.
Can we
again? No picks.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just want Kawhi to be healthy.
I do understand. I can understand some of this thinking. There was a lot of this right after Kawhi went down. Here we go again. Let's just blow it up. Blow it up, Dyke, as Will was once called.
In all time. Blow it up, Dyke, and He Sucks Stardom. Two of our finest pieces of work.
That was a prevailing view coming into this season, that the Clippers should already start over. So for things to happen and transpire the way they did, where they ended up in the exact same spot as last year, losing the first round while losing Kawhi Leonard, I'm not going to say that, it doesn't resonate, or just the idea of having a bunch of young guys and, hope springs eternal and that 2019 type of feel again with the Clippers would be nice. But I think it's a little bit presumptuous that any of those guys pan out. Like just because you play young guys doesn't mean they continue to develop, they continue to progress, and you go along this journey with them to where they're eventually a playoff team again and they're contending for a title. That's just not how it works.
Right.
I think they need to see, and we've talked about this recently, they need to see what some of these young guys have. They need to play more minutes than we've seen over the past 5 years. Just because there's untapped potential, I do think there is some of that there, but it's not a guarantee either way. It's not a guarantee for sure that Kawhi Leonard is going to be hurt next year in the first round, as Lawrence Frank talked about at that press conference. And it's not a guarantee if you start over that you're not just spinning your wheels with guys that are never going to be that great. Like, you don't want to be stuck in that position either.
Yeah, I think people are underestimating how long it takes to, without draft picks. Without draft picks is such a big part of the other side of this coin of, we're bottoming out and being bad, but there is no reward. There is no reward in the draft coming for, we don't even get the process. We would get the only bad parts of the process, which is looking like shit.
Well, and
no reward.
Yeah, I mean, you could give some of these guys all the playing time in the world, and that doesn't mean that they're going to be like
franchise guys.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily even mean that they'll be I'm not even talking all-star, but like a decent rotation guy. Like it's not. If it were that easy, let me tell you, man, people would bench those big contract guys for longer swaths of the season if it were possible.
For example, I believe the Lakers, before LeBron came, had 7 straight seasons or something like that of not making the playoffs, at least 5 straight where they were playing young guys. And some of them turned out to be okay. I mean, you had Jordan Clarkson in there. You had Julius Randle. Josh Hart's doing big work right now for the Knicks. Brandon Ingram, who I think could be an interesting name out there. I don't know if we'll get to that in this podcast, but he's somebody I really like a lot. And apparently the Pelicans want to move on from him. But like, there's not one SGA there. There's not one superstar MVP caliber player there. And they got a ton of time to develop. They got a ton of on-court minutes. They eventually went to other teams. They're contributors, but you still have to have a hammer. You have to have a superstar to build around. So I just, when it comes to these two decisions, and we talked about this recently, Chuck, on here, of your options are run it back with everybody and just hope for better health versus be bad with young guys while still not getting draft picks. To me, I'm easily choosing to run it back with guys right now and just hope for better luck and fortune.
Yeah, because it's not, I mean, it's still an uphill battle, even if healthy, with the stars being the age that they are. But like, you look at the alternative and it's like, man, I guess I'd rather, I don't know. I guess I'd rather lose my shirt, like betting on like the favorite than like the huge windfall. Yeah.
It would be a real decision if you actually were going to receive those draft picks every year after being bad with young guys.
100%. If draft
they don't have that luxury.
Yeah, if they were on the table, I'd be like, sure, I don't know. Yeah. Screw it.
The next first round pick they have is 2030, guys.
Yeah.
So they're thinking of, as much as you may not like the idea of running it back, the alternative is a pretty bleak outcome of just young guys winning 30 games maybe per season. And then the cavalry never arrives with a first round pick to speak of because of that.
We got those high seconds, though. That 31st pick is basically a first-round pick. Actually, we might not even have those now that I think about it. We had a couple.
What do you think, Chuck?
On
that question.
Talking about, the more we talk about it, the more I think about having to watch a team. Yes, the Clippers have been incredibly frustrating and may have broken my brain this season in terms of how I view this team's outlook. That being said, I would rather watch that than a team of guys with a coach who, in Ty Lue, I don't think has any interest in what the Clippers would be doing, which is, A, he has no interest in bottoming out. That's why I got fired from Cleveland. And B, we're bottoming out for nothing. The more we think about it, it's like, it feels insane to want to just suck ass with and I know the draft is a gamble, but without even a modicum or chance at getting a franchise. You were just like sucking to suck.
I mean, like, one of the young guys already on the roster would have to turn out to be really, really, really good. Like, that's truly the only way this situation works, because we don't even have the picks. So like, we would have to hope that one of these guys that gets extended minutes is somehow really, really good, and every other team in the league somehow missed out on it, and we caught it.
Have you heard of Kai Jones?
I'm interested in Kai Jones.
I am too, but I'm not interested to the point where I say we should punt the season and give him 35 minutes a game.
That it sounds like an option of basically having the dip, but no chips.
Wow.
No chips to dip in it. That's what it sounds like, not getting any draft picks while going with the youth movement, where, by the way, in the West, you might win 20 games if you really try to hit a hard reset and see what you got with young guys in the Western Conference with the way it is right now.
And we'd be getting a new coach because Ty Lue would quit. Ty Lue would be like, I'm not doing this. Like, this is not what I want to be doing. Right? I think Ty Lue would quit if they blew it up.
Yeah, he's
rightfully so.
He's not a rebuilding coach. I don't really think he's a young player development coach. Although TBD. Who knows what he's like with the developing some of the younger talent. But yeah, I think Ty Lue is walking out the door in that scenario.
Rightfully so.
We can't really stress this point enough, guys. While neither option is the greatest thing in the world, the difference between playing a bunch of young guys for draft picks that aren't coming versus having Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden, granted aging stars,
sure,
and somewhat of a chance. To me, that's really not much of a question. I'm going to go with running it back.
We're going with running it back. We're going to take a quick audio break for those of you listening. For those of you watching, you can watch Adam put some dip on his chip. Will is covering his camera, but I believe he's eating. We're going to talk about dips in the next segment. We got a couple more questions, and then we're going to get to that very important dip talk. We got audio break coming up in 3, 2, 1.
What's going on? I just finished a delicious chip with some dip. We talked about the Clippers season outlook. We got a couple more mailbag questions. But then, you know what you're here for. You're here for the dip review.
We fully pivoted.
But let's jump back into some of these questions. A lot of people are on the move Norm train. Gabe Moreau wants to know thoughts on John Collins for Norm, PJ plus pick for Grant Williams. Charles, where are you at on this?
I don't want Grant Williams on this team. He's been a guy who he was tweeted at us a couple times, and he doesn't seem like a good locker room dude. And I didn't watch a lot of the Hornets, granted, but it doesn't exactly pop out to me that he would be a huge improvement for our bench or something. Like, I don't know about the Grant Williams. It's Norman PJ is not going to get done for John Collins. We're having to put a pick to that. Right? Like, that would be kind of a crazy move.
That's an insane ask for John Collins.
I agree, but we only have one pick to put on it, which is a 2030 first, which they're not trading.
Yeah, so there's no incentive for Utah to do that without a pick because Norm actually is under contract for 2 more years, where after this season, John Collins has a player option, which he will take to get out and get a bigger deal.
Right. Yeah.
So I like John Collins a lot. If there's a way to get it done, like you said, Chuck, with a draft pick in there that isn't a 2030 first round pick.
Is that the 4? Is that the 4 that magically fixes the Clippers?
He's been talked about for a while.
Years at this point, dude. It's crazy. I don't know.
Hey, youth athleticism. I like John Collins. I do think it would be a good fit, but I don't think Utah's doing that. I don't think Danny Ainge, who's one of the shrewdest front office men, who got everything he wanted out of Gobert and Donovan Mitchell trading their 2 stars. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that easy.
I like John Collins a lot. I like the idea of the fit. I don't think he's high enough value to attach the 2030 pick. And I may be overvaluing that, but like, good Lord, where is this team going to be in 2030? Like, that has to be, I would put that at a very high value pick. And I don't think that Norm plus any combination of salary filler plus the 2030, to me, John Collins is not that caliber of player. Sorry.
That 2030 is crazy valuable. If you look at the Clippers right now, if you're another team, it's like, that's a pretty valuable pick.
Unless they just keep kicking the can down the road and just keep re-upping with guys and bringing in veterans, and they never draft in the first round again.
Oh, God, it feels like a real possibility.
No.
We got another Norm one. Andy Yoon asks, who says no? Norm Powell to Orlando for Jonathan Isaac. I've been obsessing with this guy's defensive gifts.
Orlando says no immediately. What are you talking about? Come on. Next.
Jonathan Isaac's very good.
He was able
to. So is Norm. But
but Jonathan Isaac's way younger.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see what Jonathan Isaac's contract situation is because I don't think he's making close to what Norman Powell is. So, okay, and you know what? I take that back.
Yeah.
He's at $17 million. So he's close. Norm's making a little bit more, a couple more million than him, but they're both. Jonathan Isaac's contract is up after this next season, so he'll be an unrestricted free agent in 2025, while Norman Powell is still under contract for 1 more year. I don't know. Norman Powell does have value. That is somebody that you can talk about when it comes to trades involving the Clippers and actually getting something solid back for. He easily should have finished, to me, top 3 in 6-man of the year voting. Like,
totally.
Come on. And Jonathan Isaac, yeah, I like him. I think that'd be great to have him at the 4, but I don't know what it would take. I think it would take more than Norman Powell.
Would you trade the 2030 for Jonathan Isaac?
No, because he's so injury prone. That's the chance you have getting him, is just because of his injury history, and maybe Orlando wants to move on because of that reason. But
save a couple bucks in like the short term.
Yeah, or feel like they need to make more of a push because they lost in the first round. They need more scoring out there, and that kind of was their issue in that series against Cleveland. Maybe it's not that crazy that Orlando wouldn't at least think about it or pick up the phone.
Throw in a couple seconds, toss in 4 second-round picks.
Yeah,
why not?
PJ Tucker.
Yes, I'll trade PJ for anything. PJ in the first is something people asked us about, what we could get for that, and it was like nothing. He makes $11 million a year. No, I don't know. We got asked what favorite free agents we have for the minimum contract. Guys, I looked at the list. Bismack Biyombo, like, that's all I got.
For the minimum? Okay. I think Nicholas Batum could be on that list. I think him or Rocco could be there. I think they could be, minimum contract guys. Yeah. Maybe
get even older next year.
Sure. I don't. You don't have a lot of options if you're not bringing in Sean Collins or Jonathan Isaac. What about he might make too much, but he might not. Patrick Beverly on the minimum.
I don't want Pat Bev on this team again.
Yeah, the recent stuff going on with him's tough.
We don't need
the recent stuff is rough. It seems like he's really leaned into the bar stool thing. And
before that, I would have been all about it because he's one of my all-time favorite Clippers.
But I just think, I don't think it's a secret. Like, Paul George and Kawhi are not eager to work with him again. And like, aside the Chris Paul incident aside, like, I think that there was some vocal dislike of Patrick Beverly in that locker room.
We don't need any more podcast hosts. We don't need any more podcast hosts in the locker room.
Yeah, let's get our active players with a podcast down to none. That'd be sick.
That'd be sick.
Is there a roster in the NBA that has that going on?
Ooh, that might actually be a good call. Jazz? They don't have any podcast hosts, right? Kings?
I don't know. There could be some obscure, like, Colin Sexton might have a podcast out.
Colin Sexton has a podcast on like Magic the Gathering cards or something. That would be sick, actually. Again, I've said it before. If Paul George just did a podcast about fishing, that would be great. He loves fishing. Just talk about fishing. We didn't get any questions about Paul George's contract, which I was a little surprised by, but we have to assume that it's, I don't know, it just feels like he wants a max, and they're like, what about less than a max? And he's like, we'll get back to you. That's what everything's, speaking of reading the tea leaves, that's what it feels like is happening right now.
It looks like he's going to use the market for leverage to see, hey, Philadelphia's offering me this. What will you guys give me? I do think there's a part of him that would like to stay a Clipper and love to stay in Southern California and love to stay in Los Angeles. And that's the leverage side from the front office. Being like, you don't have to move. You can stay here. That's their angle, I'm guessing, to get him to take less.
Continue to just be Beta George, man.
Oh, no. It's going to be...
What did you guys make of his last podcast talking about their exit in the playoffs?
I felt like
I didn't listen to it. Give me the play it on your phone real fast. No, just give me the give me the liner notes.
They should have played more aggressive. They were playing too much hero ball. I felt like I had a big gash in my arm. And
at what point was he playing hero ball?
I felt like I had a big gash in my arm and someone poured a bunch of salt in it, is how I felt hearing him talk about it.
He ended up attempting 15 shots per game in that series, right? That's where it ended up as.
15.8.
Like 4 in the second half of game 6 after he had 14 points in the first half.
PJ Tucker outscored him in that half.
the thing that I kept thinking about when listening to the talk of whether or not you should be more aggressive or whether or not you should get your teammates involved and striking that balance is, and him saying specifically they're playing too much ISO ball. And a lot of people said, oh, yeah, why are you guys always doing that? I would push back on everyone thinking that it's so much of a plan to play ISO ball as opposed to they have older guys that aren't beating people off the dribble. So it ends up being ISO ball out of necessity. I don't think it's so much of a strategy. I think the isolation is because they're not getting 2 feet in the paint. They're not beating their man off the dribble. They're not creating enough mismatches and enough of teams getting in rotation. That's what I think the issue is.
I don't really hear Ty Lue on the sideline line often yelling, run the ISO ball.
ISO!
Yeah. Like him not being able to get past Derrick Jones Jr. enough and getting clamped by him throughout some of the series, that was the issue. It wasn't an X's and O's thing.
He looked like a real hero there.
The contract, if they sign him to a max contract, that is going to be a very fun live stream. All right, we're in the more fun questions, and then we're getting to those dips. I know we've been wanting to review them. I've been trying to grin and bear it through the horrible option I made through this whole episode. TDE Baysar asks, just wondering if y'all would be open to sharing what you do outside of the podcast for work and some background on how y'all started the pod. Adam, where exactly do you work? Give us the latitude and longitude.
I mean, it's 2 miles down the street here in Burbank, 3400 West Olive, the Pinnacle building across from the old NBC building. That's where AM 570 LA Sports is. That's where I've been working since 2009, and that's how I ended up getting a job with the Clippers. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I work for the Natural History Museums of Los Angeles County. I work in the marketing department. I don't know very many facts about animals, but if you're at the museum one day and you see me, I'm probably very busy and I can't talk. Or say go Clips. Will, where exactly do you work and what hours and what route do you take to commute there?
I work at the Jiffy Lube by Sunset Junction, and I'm very quick at changing oil. Very good with cars, as you might imagine by my voice.
Thanks for that air filter upgrade.
Yeah. And then we started the pod because Will and I left Locked On Clippers because it was too much work and we wanted to have more fun. And
I almost took over afterwards.
Yeah.
Luckily that didn't happen because one guy doing that 5 days a week, that looks like a very much of a grind. And Dime Dropper's doing a hell of a job anyways. Who needs me?
Shout out Dime. So that's how we started the pod. Will, do you have any other insight on how we started this pod? Didn't it come to you in a dream or something?
Yeah, it came to me in a dream. No, I mean, like the genesis of this pod, even including, I think, a pun in the name, was we had a podcast called Shavings a long, long time ago when there were no podcasts about the Clippers. We were like, man, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to just have a podcast about the Clippers because nobody like their Clipscast was there, but that was really about it.
Well, they'll let you know that's the longest running Clippers podcast.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, they got that going for them. Not the most regular, but it is the longest running. Clipper Nick, with maybe the most important question of the day. Given the officiating disparity in the Mavs series, is next season finally the year that Ivica Zubac grows his hair out to try and draw more fouls? God, I hope so. He's getting an extra $10 million a year if he gets a couple more free throw attempts, and that comes from the long hair. I don't know.
There's just not enough time, man. He's already too late. He needed to start
the wig
months ago.
So you're saying
I'm good? Yeah, I'm good with wig. There's no rules against that, are there?
I don't think so. Adam, where are you at? Zoo should have long hair. Haggle, no haggle.
I like the buzz cut. Keep it clean. And I don't think they got screwed in that series for the most part because of fouls. How about, would it make him more recognizable to his teammates? I don't want him to be more hidden out there on the court. Like, who is this new guy with long hair? We can't give him the basketball. That's the reverse of what I want.
Mullet.
Yeah, it's a flow. It's like Eric Lindros or something like that, like an 80s thick hockey mullet.
Or it's like
and he's throwing it down. He's wearing a headband.
Will Ferrell thing.
Yeah, anything. So when his head snaps back from getting hit in the forehead by 3 Thunder players, the ref gives him the call.
Who does have the longest hair? Is it Jimmy Butler in his preseason media introduction?
100%.
Email Jimmy.
Jeremy Lin got those extensions, like the crazy when he had the dreadlocks.
Yeah.
There was something.
Well, I hope Sue doesn't get dreadlocks. That wouldn't be that's another problem the Clippers don't need next year.
Yeah, he doesn't need fake hair like the lead singer of Counting Crows or anything like
that. Chenny John, and then we got some very important stuff. Chenny John asks, what possible features / in-game events at the Intuit Dome do you guys want to see? VR hot dog cannon headset play, exhibits of ripped Ballmer shirts, Chuck the Condor's churro quarter pounder, muscle up bicep curls versus follow Adam A. Will, what are you going with? Any of these or any new ones you could maybe think of?
Sorry, I'm just re-looking over the list. I guess I like VR hot dog cannon headset. Great question, by the way, Change On. These are all great options. I like the VR hot dog headset. The other one I was throwing around the other day was Chuck the Condor getting launched out of a cannon into a washing machine, and then a bunch of confetti shooting out and just saying we're washed. I feel like it'd be pretty funny.
That's a great bit. Adam, would you be willing to do the bicep challenge at halftime of Intuit?
If it's necessary. I feel like that'd be a pretty weak halftime show. I'd rather have the guy out there with the ladders or the dog or anything else.
Yeah. Okay, well, what about
I'm not worthy.
What about in between timeouts?
Well,
you're worthy of that.
Yeah,
it's also a vanity exercise. That's not really Adam's approach.
No, it's not like I'm wearing a tank top right now or anything underneath this. I like the idea of more extravagant food. He's talking about the 5-pound churro or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure Charles Barkley would have something to say about that with the women of San Antonio or whatever. If there was a big old churro at
Has anyone done a churro dog, like sort of a churro around a hot dog, similar to a hot dog on a stick, but with a churro?
My guess is 100%.
Yeah, it's probably been done.
Good.
They've had it at Crypto. Where were you, man? Was there the whole time?
Yeah, I would.
What about a foot-long hot dog inside a churro? Has anyone done that?
What about this? What about a hot dog but it's shaped like a hamburger, dude?
What about?
And the inside of the hot dog is filled with cheese.
A huge, giant vat of a dip weekly that we pick that they then use it Intuit Dome for the Clips and Dip podcast.
Like the block of cheese that used to be in the White House that people could come take pieces off of. It's just a big thing of dip. People can dip. Everyone gets sick.
And there's a security guy there watching, making sure there's no double dippers. That would be amazing. You get one dip. It's like communion. You get one cracker.
They should market it like that. It's like communion. All right. I saw on Twitter that DJ Dents has a home phone. He tweeted out that he still has a home phone. Really quick, Will, what other Clipper do you think still has a home phone?
I mean, the easy answer is Kawhi, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
But also PJ Tucker, because he's old. I feel like he feels like you can't live in a house without a home phone.
Yeah. He's got this one. He's got the whole phone where you're speaking into the wall and you have the earpiece. Adam, who's your? He
still calls and asks someone to connect him to the other phone number. Instead of just dialing the phone number.
Hi, can you connect me to the Malibu News sports reporter, please? I have some very exciting information. Adam, who's your pick for Clipper with a home phone?
I'll go on the other end. Maybe one of the young guys is kind of a hipster. They want something retro at their place. Maybe Busy Bones, maybe Brandon Boston, maybe Kobe Brown or Musa. They have an old landline there just to experience something that they never had as a child.
That's a really good pick, I think.
I mean, people are putting albums on cassette tapes now, and it's like, what is the advantage, guys? There's absolutely none. A record makes sense. This doesn't.
I'm going Zoo. I think Zoo might have some old tendencies as someone who's like, my home.
I want a picture of Pizza Zubats making a call on a hamburger phone so bad.
One of these. On a hamburger phone.
The Juno hamburger phone.
Eric Bui, if you're listening, if that can be any kind of joke, Zoo talking on a hamburger phone. Okay. The moment we have been waiting for, and I think most of our new listeners who are certainly tuning in for the Dip Talk. Welcome to the first ever Dip review segment on Clips.
We're
and
tired
Dip.
of everyone saying, so do you guys try out dips on the show? No, we don't.
We've been beaten into submission by the masses. Who would like to go first? Who feels their dip is the best? I feel that mine is firmly the worst. I will gladly go last.
Let's go worst first.
Worst first? Great. This dip, just to set the mood, I tried the dip with a salt and pepper kettle chip is what I did for my chip. I don't want anything too crazy, but I don't want anything too plain. It's usually what I eat dip with chip wise.
It's a good chip.
Very good chip. I went out of my comfort zone on this one. I enjoy trashy foods, but not like this. I went with the Doritos Cool Ranch Jalapeno flavored dip.
I would have thought you would have loved this.
It's so bad. It's very. I bought
pop it. Pop the top. What's the dip look like?
Yeah, I want to see it.
I think it's pretty obvious what the dip.
Are you supposed to use the Cool Ranch Doritos chips specifically for this dip? Does it go to well, or does it clash? Like
that would actually be a knock on the dip in my. You shouldn't need a special chip for the dip. Would be my knock on that. But this is very bad. It's kind of.
What's our rating scale on this?
Ooh, should we just do 1 to 10?
1 to 5.
Okay, yeah, we don't want to make it too hard for people.
What is is it a star or is it a
with
dip
fractions?
Or is it a chip?
Let's do buy again. Yes or no? Would you buy this for a barbecue? Yeah. I would not buy this for a barbecue for someone who I liked. Would be how I would describe this. If you're my enemy and
you go to barbecues of people you hate,
sometimes.
Are you like I went to this guy's funeral just to make sure he's dead?
And I'm biggest hater's funeral. I'm giving them this horrible dip on the picnic table, and then I'm Irish goodbying.
Okay.
All right. So who's up? Well, among you two, who's enjoying their dip more?
I mean, I'm enjoying mine. I got a double. I got a double dip actually for you.
Whoa!
Plus a hot chip tip.
All right, well, let's do Adam, and then we'll do the double dip and hot chip tip to close it out.
This guy's got some type of layered dip, you could say, with the explanation coming. I have the Trader Joe's spinach and kale Greek yogurt dip, which I have tried before. It's classic. It is a hot item at Trader Joe's. The only problem with this dip is having to park at a Trader Joe's. There's never been a Trader Joe's with a decent parking lot in existence, at least from what I've seen. And I've never left California. I also had something to dip. Yeah. I went with oven baked cheese bites because it's low carb. It's just cheese that's, baked, and you could eat that by itself. You don't even need dip with that. The dip is very good, but then also some seaweed paper here if I want to go really healthy. But the dip is thick, man. Like it is thicker than a bowl of oatmeal. I could almost turn this upside down if I wanted to try this out and see if it landed.
Turn it upside down. Do it. Please see if it stays in.
Oh, that's good. It's good.
So you would bring that? Would you bring that to a barbecue?
Oh yeah, all day. I would. But it's the healthier option. It is full of spinach and kale. If you don't need your Metamucil this day when you have this dip.
That's going to be a great Brian Seaman call next year when Kawhi dunks. He's going, he had his Metamucil this morning.
A little bit lighter on.
We'll close this thing out. We have one horrible dip to bring to your enemy. We have a great dip that Adam's going to hopefully bring to the next Clips and Dip barbecue. And you have a double dip with a hot chip tip. Lay it on us.
Yeah. Where should I start? Well, I'm going to start chip because as we discussed earlier, it's sort of the foundation. You can't just have dip. Well, I mean, some people eat with a spoon. I know.
Hannah has dip with a spoon. Yeah.
I'm doing the keto thing, so there's not a lot of good chip options out there. But the best substitute that I've found is leaves. If you just take some cabbage leaves, it's got like the right amount of crunch. You can kind of make it in the same shape. I usually keep it in my fridge and I'll just randomly tear pieces off and dip it into some sauce. I've tried other things as a substitute for chips. I've tried celery and carrots and stuff. It's just not really the same. It's just not really cutting the mustard, so to speak.
Check these bad boys out.
Are they the cheesy bites? Yeah, those are. That's something to think about.
These are keto friendly
for sure. I like the cabbage thing. That's my hot chip tip. As far as dips go, I got a little double for you. One is, man, should I show this on cam? I don't really know.
I mean, is it showable on cam? Okay. Seems like you like one more than the other.
Well, I just was lower on one than the other.
Got it. Okay.
So my two favorite dips to pair with this hot chip dip or hot chip tip. Well, actually, I don't know if it's my two favorite. It's just what I had on hand. I would go sesame oil and salt, classic Korean barbecue side. It also just it makes a phenomenal dip. I'm not gonna lie, it's so good. You're hitting all your bases. And I also got, if you notice the darker sauce, if you're watching this on video, I have the Sanjay Szechuan sauce because it has no carbs in it. A lot of those prepackaged sort of like, your orange chicken sauce, your Szechuan sauce. A lot of them got a lot of sugar, but this one is no carb. So there are two dips and a hot chip dip for you.
And would you bring both of these dips to a barbecue?
Oh, I mean, I would legit make a platter of this. I think it's like that tasty, and like you can eat a bunch of it. Like calorically, it doesn't really matter, and it's pretty fun to eat.
Hell yeah! Well, I think we knocked the chip dip part out of the park.
Is this what everybody wanted?
This is what.
This is coming at you every week in the offseason.
Bro, every week in the offseason, you people asked for this.
It took 2 years for us to figure this out.
We got there. We got a great system for it. Would you take it to a barbecue? I think that's a pretty good real world system to apply.
For somebody you liked.
No, we didn't specify that. We just said at barbecue. And you had an extra dip this week, and you had a chip tip. So we've set the bar very high. We're going to be back. That about wraps things up, I believe, unless you have anything else we'd like to speak about involving the Clippers or the upcoming election.
I like the format. I like Chuck came up with it and with the dip, but we can eat while the show's going on as long as we have our mic muted. So far, so good.
Yes. We're going to be back next week with a special guest, probably Carl Tart. Hopefully, maybe Law Murray could be a good time. We're going to get it figured out. Rate and reviews really help us. Will, where can people subscribe or even write their feelings about this podcast, should they feel so inclined? Will is enjoying his dips. He's giving me the 1 minute hold up for those of you listening.
Sorry, I had to finish chewing. So if you want to enjoy this show as much as I enjoy this dip and chip, you should subscribe to us over on YouTube. That's at Clippers Podcast. You can also find us on all audio platforms, Stitcher, Deezer, Amazon Music, all the regular spots. But if you happen to listen over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you could leave a little rating or review, it would help us out. I think you can even leave multiple on Spotify. So fact check me on that, by leaving a couple of reviews. And if you can't do it, I guess let us know in a different review on another platform. But anyway, you interact with the show. We really appreciate it.
We really
stay rocking with us through the off season. It's going to be a good time. Things get weird on here, and it's a lot of fun.
I thrive when the team is kind of in the dumps vibe-wise, so I think everyone's going to have a really good time this off season. Adam, I know it's the off season. We need one positive thing for these Clippers fans heading into this rest of the week.
Man, there have been some close nip and tuck, really stressful nail biter like playoff games right now. And if you're a Clipper fan, you just go in with ease. It isn't hurting you at all. You're not having a heart attack. You're not pulling your hair out watching some of these games. It's the other fans that have to deal with that level of stress, not you.
Suckers.
You're relieved of that. But yeah, I hope we deal with it somewhat next year.
We are relieved. We hope we deal with it too. Again, thank you everyone for hanging out. We'll see you next week. And as always, let's go Clips.